A case study is one of the few pieces of sales content that can actually hypnotize your prospect. Not in the "you are getting sleepy" kind of way, but in the "I can literally see myself as the hero of this story" way. When done right, a case study doesn't just state facts. It actually walks the reader through a relatable journey, one that matches their world so closely they can't help but start thinking, this could be me. I could be the hero of that story. And that's the magic. The better the story, the stronger that mental projection becomes, the sooner we get to them opening that sweet, sweet wallet of theirs. But here's the thing. Hypnosis only works if the story is both believable and persuasive. For example, I have a handful of stories I share with prospects to demonstrate the successes of my own clients that they've seen as a result of my work with them. For example, a sales playbook and a white paper I wrote helped a startup get into six-figure deals with BlackRock and Visa. A library of public case studies I've written for another client have produced dozens of 5- and 6-figure deals. A thought leadership series I ghost wrote got placed in Towards Data Science, which is one of the biggest online data science publications, and it got my client acquired by his competitor. The open source docs and marketing materials I wrote for another client got them more than 1 million downloads of software in just 7 months. Now I can go on and on and on, but I'm not here to sell you on why you should hire me to do your B2B sales content. Now a case study needs to be a specific document that has all the details like industry, company size, exact challenges that your customer faced, the results that they got, what might have gone wrong along the way, and a manly pile of direct quotes that you can stand behind. There is no room for fluff because your reader needs to believe this actually happened. Because a case study is storytelling, it needs to follow a clear arc before, during, and after, beginning, middle, and end. You need the who, the what, the why, the where, the when, all that stuff. What was the problem? What was at stake? Why did they choose to work with you? What did the solution look like in practice? What were the measurable results? Those results need to be claim-proof and indisputable. If you put them in writing, you need to be able to back them up, and they need to align with not just your marketing, but what success actually means for your customer. And if you exaggerate or lie, it's going to blow up in your face the first time a skeptical buyer asks for details. You want to hear a prospect say, "I loved that case study you wrote," and you do not want to hear a prospect say, "I read that case study and it didn't sit right with me. Can I ask some questions about some details?" Which raises another key point. Case studies are sales enablement tools. Whether you make them public facing or keep them internal, they are there to arm your sales team with proof. And in sales, proof beats promises every single time. That's why you lead with the best, most impressive transformation, and you don't bury it on page 2. And while case studies may involve your product or your service, they are not about you. They are about your customer and their success. When you make a claim about your product, the case study is that third-party validation that says, yes, our stuff works in the real world. There is no stronger signal. So let's talk about the 2 main types of case studies that you should care about: internal and external. Now, internal case studies are massively underrated. These are the ones you do not publish publicly, but you keep them in a deck or in a document for your sales team. They list the past and present clients along with any successes that they've had. You might even include some key prospects if it's going to help you close a deal. For example, you might say, we're talking to so-and-so about a product, a deal about this, if it's going to bolster the chances of you closing a deal and it's not under some tight NDA. When you keep your sales docs and your internal case studies like all organized and easy to access, they become a go-to resource in your sales conversations. You might have a great customer story that never gets marketing or legal approval, but you can still kind of talk about it one-on-one with a prospect as long as you don't violate your NDA, which would be a bad idea. Now, when you're writing an internal case study, you probably won't get to interview the customer. You'll instead be relying on account executives or customer success managers for the details, and they'll largely be anecdotal if you're not collecting the data in an internal dashboard or something. So if you've got a software product, you can mine usage data and get some success metrics. And if your sales team is solid, they're already capturing like pre-sales notes and call transcripts in your CRM, and your AEs should be recording check-in calls and storing them somewhere meaningful. And if all of that raw material is accessible, then you can use it for internal proof points in an internal case study. Also, pro tip, POCs count. If you're doing a proof of concept with a really cool client, that's still fodder for an internal case study. Don't discount it because they're not a full-fledged customer or something like that. All right, now let's talk about external case studies. These are the ones you publish and promote in the public. Prospects love them and they just can't get enough because they are probably the number one piece of content that's used to convince prospects. In fact, it's probably the thing I'm asked to create for my clients more than anything else. Whether you're doing big deal sizes or small ones, it doesn't matter because you can't beat a well-written case study for speeding up a sale. Now, the trick with external case studies is getting your customers permission to write and publish. This can be the hardest part. I've had my clients' customers happily do interviews, but they bail at the last minute before we publish it. And this really sucks because you put all this effort into it, but the legal team might be too uptight or the marketing team doesn't get a leadership approval, and they'll say the case study is too risky or something. I don't know. Realistically, there are tons of reasons why your customers might be hesitant to agree to a case study. It might be because they don't want to signal they're locked in with a vendor, or they might not want to feel like they're being exploited for marketing. But the best way around this is to just make case studies a safe win for them and for you. Co-marketing is ideal, but you want to have a story that makes your customer look like a huge success, while also showing you as the trusted partner who helped make that success happen. Either way, your case studies should make your customer look and sound like a total badass. Now, whether it's an internal or external case study, the writing process matters a lot. If you want to learn more about that, we've published a bunch of videos about the rigorous approach we take to make case studies truly hypnotic. Basically, we dig deep for specifics, we structure a story so the reader can see themselves in it, and we make it really easy to scan and read. Long-form case studies are great. They should still be engaging to read. They should have headings, call-out quotes, stats, visuals that make them easy to digest. Same as a shorter case study, just longer. And once you have a finished case study, don't just put it on your website and say, hey guys, we're done, and call it a day. Case studies should be everywhere. Use them in your outbound campaigns, tie them to nurture sequences, drop them into pitch decks, turn them into one-pagers for conferences, pull out snippets for social media posts, create short internal summaries for quick reference, print it out and keep it next to the toilets at work. Whatever you need to do to show that your case study should not be ignored. That cannot be overstated. If you think about it, a good case study works on multiple levels. It educates your buyer about a problem and a solution. It proves that your product works. It builds emotional connection by telling a story that a reader can relate to. And it arms your sales team with undeniable third-party proof, which is why I'll say it again. Case studies are hypnotic. They're one of the few content assets that can move a buyer from I'm curious to I'm ready to talk, without ever feeling like they were being sold to. They see someone like them succeed, and then they imagine how they could do the same. So in summary, case studies are incredibly effective because they focus on one customer's specific successful journey. But what if you need to address a broader industry problem, or educate the market on a new concept, or package a wealth of information into a highly marketable single asset? For that, you need an ebook. And in our next video, we will show you how ebooks can cover more ground and serve as powerful lead magnets. And if you haven't already done so, watch the previous videos in this series on B2B sales content. Click the like button and subscribe and leave a comment.